Hi, I'm Alex, and welcome back to the Boathouse Paddle series where we talk about everything concerning paddle. A couple of days ago, we had Paddle Forward, which is Paddle's biannual event where they talk about the product, the platform, what they're planning, also show you what's changed in the last couple of months if you haven't been notified. I highly recommend subscribing to their developer notifications just to stay in the loop and keep up to date with the platform anyway, but the event is a good recap of what's happened and what's going to happen. In this video, I'm going to run you through the main points of the event very briefly. Go check out the video if you want. It's available at paddle.com/forward. But I'll just touch on all of the topics that I think were most interesting from the event. First off, Andrew Davies, CMO of Paddle, talked about their changes to the acceptable use policy where they do not allow generative image AI software or products onto the platform anymore. This is basically down to payment providers having certain rules on what content or what products can be paid with their platforms, and these generative AI usually not having safeguards in place to protect what kind of images are generated. It's fairly simple. There was a lot of drama around this on Twitter, but ultimately it's a matter of risk tolerance, and they are trying to protect the other vendors on the platform. Next up was Stu, who talked about the general product vision, which was very interesting, basically summarized as an AI-powered paddle. They have a lot of data on payments across all their vendors, and combine that with an AI that could recommend things to you to improve either on the billing stack on their side, so which payment providers to use in certain industries for your business, for your product, or on your side, maybe they can give you recommendations on which plans to change, how to price differently. So it'd be interesting what's coming here. They're going for an all-in-one billing stack approach. Basically, they just give you all the recommendations that you need, and you don't need to really think about these things much. Next up was the product team who introduced the first version of the customer portal. This portal allows your customers to log in with just their email. They'll get a magic link to sign into the portal. Allows them to have a look at what subscriptions are active, what products they've purchased, see their invoices, and also cancel their subscription. Next up is a very interesting feature or upcoming feature, which is stored payment methods. Previously on Paddle checkouts, you had to re-enter your card details every time you did a checkout. In future, you'll be able to let your customers store that payment method. And then if you have another checkout, if you're selling them another product or they're upgrading to a new subscription, or whenever they return to your checkout, they'll be presented with previous stored payment methods that they can choose for that transaction. Currently, it's unclear to me whether this is just on your checkout for your vendor or across the Paddle platform. We'll see when that feature is fully announced. But either way, this is a really interesting change that Paddle is going to add to the platform. Before we go on to the developer experience changes, a couple of things that the product team announced as well, which was they are working on a one-page checkout, which basically improves or streamlines that whole checkout experience so the users don't have to move between different views, between different pages during the checkout. They are generating credit notes as a PDF, just like with the invoices. So if you're refunding someone or if you're crediting their account with something, they have a PDF document showing that this has happened. Enhanced billing notifications is the first of their jurisdiction changes. So in certain countries, you need to inform customers if, for example, their free trial is ending or their discount period is ending or they are on an annual plan or anything above 6 months, for example. They'll now get an email from Paddle in all of these cases telling them what's happening, and this basically is just a compliance issue for certain jurisdictions. Cardless trials. Now, don't get excited. This is a very early idea stage thing. They've invited you to give them feedback or get in touch if you have ideas about how cardless trials could work. But this is something they have announced and they are probably working on already. Last but not least, the cancellation flow changes is another jurisdiction change. So if you're using cancellation flows from Retain, they now adapt that page depending on the country that the customer is in to basically conform to local laws with regard to cancellation. Basically, this just means that at the bottom, they'll probably introduce a very fast way of cancel immediately instead of having to go through the whole cancellation flow. The last thing was a very big announcement on the developer experience side, which is the Webhook Simulator. If you know Paddle Classic, you know they had a Webhook Simulator where you could send events from Paddle into your app to test certain things, to test your implementation. They've now brought this to Paddle Billing, but not only brought it over, but they've actually majorly improved it. So let's have a look at that in detail. So you can, of course, just send events from the Paddle platform to your app, to your system with dummy payloads or your own payloads to test your implementation. That works as you would expect. But they've taken the Webhook Simulator to a whole new level with their scenario simulation. Now, this is a feature, this is great for unit testing. So let's say you want to write a unit test that requires Paddle events or that works with Paddle events. You can do that now by creating a scenario in the Webhook Simulator in Paddle and then running that scenario via the Paddle API from your unit test. So if you have a unit test that needs to respond to a certain chain of Paddle events or just one Paddle event, you can let Paddle send you that event as part of the unit test and have this full end-to-end integration from your app right through the billing stack and back. I think this is a great feature and I can't wait to add it to my unit tests. And that was pretty much it from Paddle for this time. See you next time.